If you've ever listened to a legendary jazz soloist, someone like Charlie Parker or John Coltrane, it can sound like they're just pulling notes out of thin air.
Oh, absolutely. It's like this unstoppable torrent of sound, and you think, how is that even possible?
Yeah,
It sounds so spontaneous, almost magical.
right. It feels complex, but that magic it's really built on structure, isn't it? The secret is in the building blocks, the scales.
Exactly. You can think of it like this. Every scale is basically a specific recipe of notes.
A recipe, I like that.
Yeah, and if you know these recipes, you immediately know which notes will sound, delicious over a certain chord.
And that's what we're going to break down today. We want to get into those essential patterns that give jazz its unique color and, well, its mood.
Yeah, it's about moving beyond just knowing the names. It's about understanding the feeling each one creates. That's what lets you improvise with confidence.
Okay, so let's start at the very beginning, the absolute foundation.
That has to be the major scale. It's the most fundamental building block in, all of Western music.
So it's 7 notes, arranged in that specific pattern of whole steps and half steps that we all learn.
It's the sonic baseline, the reference point for everything else we're going to talk about.
It has that bright, stable, kind of happy sound. It's home base.
Right. And if you really master it, you can figure out the key of almost any simple tune just by ear. And countless melodies are built on it because it's so stable.
But in jazz, we often want something a little different, something more somber or mysterious.
Which brings us to its darker cousin, the natural minor scale.
So this is our go-to for a sad or mysterious mood.
For sure. And it's actually pretty simple to create. You just take that major scale pattern and you lower 3 specific notes.
Which ones?
The third, the sixth, and the seventh. You just lower each one by a half step.
And suddenly the whole emotional feeling just changes.
Totally different. Now, in music theory, you'll sometimes hear this called the Aeolian mode.
Okay.
But it does have one little problem for jazz improvisers.
You did what?
That lowered 7th note.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't a strong leading tone.
Okay, you got to break that down. What's a leading tone?
The leading tone is just the 7th note of a scale when it's only a half step below the root. It creates this magnetic pull that wants to resolve back home.
Ah, okay.
Since the natural minor scale lowers that 7th, the pull isn't as strong. It feels a little less conclusive.
Which I guess is why improvisers started looking for other options.
Exactly. And that brings us to the main event, really. The modes.
Right. So these are scales that are just slightly altered from the major scale, but they have these really specific harmonic colors that are just essential for jazz.
And we have to start with the Dorian mode. If you only learn one minor sounding scale for jazz, this is the one.
Why is it so important?
It's probably the most frequently used scale in all of jazz improvisation, especially when modal jazz came around in the 60s.
So what makes it Dorian? What's its defining feature?
It's a minor scale, but it has one crucial difference: a raised 6th note.
And that one note changes everything.
Everything.
Yeah.
That single note is what separates it from that heavy, sad, natural minor. It makes the Dorian mode sound lighter, cooler, a little more uplifting.
So it's serious, but not depressing.
That's a perfect way to put it. It's played over minor 7th chords, and because its sound is so stable yet interesting, a soloist can just hang out on one chord for a really long time without it getting boring.
And the classic example of this is Miles Davis's album, Kinda Blue, right?
Absolutely. A track like So What is built almost entirely on the Dorian mode. It creates a whole harmonic landscape instead of just a bunch of chord changes.
Okay, so if Dorian is the staple for minor chords, what about dominant chords?
For dominant chords, your workhorse is the Mixolydian mode.
This one is fascinating because it's so close to the major scale. What's the change?
Just one thing. Its 7th note is lowered by a half step.
And that one change is the entire emotional difference.
That's it. It takes that bright, happy major scale and injects it with this really important bluesy tension.
And that's what makes the dominant 7th chord sound like it needs to go somewhere. It wants to resolve.
Absolutely. Without the Mixolydian mode, jazz harmony wouldn't really exist as we know it. That tension is the engine of the blues. It leads the listener's ear forward.
Okay, let's shift from tension to something more ethereal. The Lydian mode.
Ah, yes. This is the dreamy one, the cinematic one.
What's the recipe for this one?
It's a major scale, but with a raised 4th note. A sharp 4, as musicians call it.
And that raised 4th is what creates that open-ended, almost weightless feeling.
Precisely. In a normal major scale, that 4th note can sometimes create a little bit of friction with the root chord.
Okay.
By raising it, Lydian gets rid of that friction completely and replaces it with this shimmer. It makes everything sound sophisticated and open.
So we've covered these 7-note scales. Let's simplify now. Let's talk about scales with fewer notes, where less is more.
Let's talk about the pentatonic scale.
Penta, meaning 5, so 5 notes.
Exactly. And they are so popular because they are deceptively simple, but incredibly powerful.
And the reason why they're so powerful is the key takeaway, right? They have no half steps.
That's it. Because there are no half-step intervals, you automatically avoid the notes that are most likely to clash with the chords. Pretty much any note you play is going to sound good.
So a major pentatonic scale just gets rid of the 4th and 7th notes of the major scale.
Yeah, and that leaves these nice open gaps in the sound, which are great for big melodic leaps. And for students trying to build speed, it's perfect because you have fewer notes to think about.
And then if you take that idea and just add one more critical note.
You get the heart of the blues. The blues scale. This is a 6-note scale.
And that extra note is the famous blue note.
It's a lowered 5th degree, and you stick it between the 4th and 5th steps of a minor pentatonic scale.
That's what creates that crunchy, expressive sound.
That's the sound. It's that raw, soulful cry that just immediately sounds like jazz.
And the really cool thing about the blues scale is how versatile it is. It works over major chords, it works over minor chords.
Which means you, as the player, can focus less on complex theory and more on rhythm, on groove, on just telling a story with the notes. So many classic solos are built almost entirely out of just those 6 notes.
Okay, now let's get into the really interesting stuff.
This is where professional players start to add a lot of complexity and tension. This is the sound of modern jazz and bebop.
And we're starting with the jazz melodic minor. How is this different from the classical version?
Well, in classical music, the scale is different going up than it is coming down.
Right.
In jazz, we keep it consistent. The 6th and 7th notes are raised both when you go up and when you come down.
And what kind of sound does that consistency create?
It's a very modern sound,
Okay.
a little dark, but really controllable. And it's super important because this one scale is the parent for a bunch of other advanced modes you need for complex bebop chords.
So it's the launch pad.
It's a launch pad for complexity. Yeah.
And if that's the launch pad, I guess the altered scale is the nuclear option for creating tension.
That's a good way to put it. It is the scale of maximum dissonance. Use it almost exclusively over dominant chords right before they resolve.
It's the top of the roller coaster just before the big drop. So what makes it sound so altered?
It contains basically every possible altered tone you can have. The flat 9, the sharp 9, the flat 5, and the sharp 5, all in one scale.
So you are deliberately playing notes that sound wrong for a second.
For just a moment, yeah, to create shock and excitement. But it takes a lot of control to make it sound intentional and not like you just made a mistake.
And because it comes from the melodic minor, it still has a logic to it that pulls it all together at the end.
Exactly. The resolution feels incredibly satisfying because the tension was so high.
Okay, now for the symmetrical scales. Let's start with the whole tone scale.
This one is really unique. It's a 6-note scale where every single interval is a whole step. No half steps at all.
And because it's so symmetrical, it has no clear tonal center, right?
Yeah.
No home note.
Right. It's totally ambiguous. It creates this kind of floating, dreamlike feeling.
Oh, it feels weightless.
Precisely. You use it to create suspense or to transition between different sections of a song. It's often played over augmented chords, which have a similar ambiguous quality.
And the other symmetrical powerhouse is the diminished scale.
This is an 8-note scale, and it has a really simple repeating pattern. Whole step, half step, whole step, half step, and so on.
And because that pattern repeats so perfectly, it's actually easier to learn than it sounds, isn't it?
It is. There are really only 3 unique diminished scales to learn, which is a relief.
So what's it used for?
It's a tool for, let's call it, structured chaos. It gives you a logical roadmap for playing a whole bunch of tension notes over diminished or dominant chords. It helps you sound complex without just sounding random.
So we've gone through all these recipes. What does this actually mean for someone listening or someone trying to learn to play?
It means scales are just tools. Knowing the recipe is one thing, but you have to practice using them.
Consistent practice is everything.
Oh, yeah. You should aim to practice every single one of these scales in all 12 keys. That way, you're ready for anything.
And here's a tip I think a lot of students miss. Use a metronome, of course. But before you even touch your instrument...
You should sing the scales.
Yes. Why is that so important?
Because singing them helps you really internalize their unique sound, their character. If you can hear the tension and release in your head, you can express it on your instrument.
At the end of the day, jazz is about communication, right? These scales are just the vocabulary you use to express your musical ideas.
And if you practice them every day, you'll unlock so many new ways to explore your own musical voice.
Remember, the goal is always to move from just practicing notes to really communicating music. Good luck with your studies.